What is up, you guys? Ron here, and welcome back to yet another epic GoPro live stream experience. My name is Ron, and I will be your host and producer for tonight's show. That's right, I will also be producing tonight's show. So if you see me looking down into my computer and looking up to the camera, that's because I am as well checking out the stream. It's a one-man show over here. And yeah, what's up? What's up, Chiao Ai? Thank you for tuning in. Good to see you here. And yeah, I think today's show is going to be really exciting because it's one that I'm very, very passionate about. It's about time lapse. But first and foremost, I want to take this time to thank all of you at home, around the world for tuning in to join us on this very special and epic GoPro live stream experience. I am just really excited that I am able to bring our GoPro e-workshop experience onto Facebook. And from the feedback that we have so far, it is quite exciting. All right, that said, if there is one thing that I can guarantee you today is that not only will you be able to walk away with everything that you need to know about time-lapse, you will also be walking away with all of the good vibes that I will be sharing throughout the workshop. For some of you and those of you who are new to the show, you know that I love to keep my workshop highly interactive because I like to engage with you. So whether you are on your mobile or whether you are on your computer, don't be shy to use the chat box to chat away with us. What's up, Ben Dexter? What's up? What's up? And that's also because, I have our awesome moderator, Connie, who's over in Malaysia, joining us. So if you have any questions, don't be shy to pull up the chat box and fire it away. At the same time, it's also a call out that I want to let you know is that if you are, is that today I will also be sharing with you a lot of tips that you might not see elsewhere. So feel free to do a screenshot, a screen grab, and yeah, if you want to save it in your phone, share it with your friends, by all means. I think the whole idea of this workshop is that we want to share all these collective experiences with you. Okay, so today, what's up, Nikki? What's up? Today, what will we cover? I know today we say it's all about time-lapse, but it is so much more about time-lapse. Like I said, today I will be going into the ins and outs about GoPro time-lapse and all the modes that are available in time-lapse. So going to the fundamentals of what is time-lapse, time-lapse versus time warps. When do you use which mode? I actually saw some of those questions come up prior to the show. I will also be giving you an introduction to night lapse. So if you are wondering how to capture the night sky, how to shoot some stars, or how to capture some light trails, that is something that I'll be doing as well. Last but not least, there will be a live Q&A at the end. And what I hear is that we are also going to be giving out some awesome GoPro swag bags to be won. But more than that, one thing that I want to encourage you to stay to the end is that in this workshop, I will also be giving you guys a link to download the GoPro Pocket Guide for free. You don't have to pay anything, but you can download the GoPro Pocket Guide. All right, so over here, if you do not have a GoPro yet, if you are looking to get a GoPro, here are some awesome deals. So it's available in Malaysia. You can scan the QR code, some accessories deal and the camera deals. One thing that's really nice that I want to give a call out is that over in Malaysia, you can actually stand a chance to win a Vespa if you purchase a Hero 9 or GoPro Max. So I don't know about you, but for me, I wish I can win that Vespa. All right, so let's get started with tonight's workshop all about time-lapse. And to do that, what I want to do right now is to play for you guys a video because I like videos. So let's get started with that. All right, so before we get started into the whole entire workshop, I thought it would be good for us to start from basics. So the first things first, what is time lapse? And I think this is a very important start state as we discuss today's topic. What is time lapse and what is this mode all about? And that makes me so passionate about it. I would say this is probably one of the modes that I use the most. So, in a nutshell, time lapse is basically a photographic technique where you capture a sequence of frames at a specific interval. Basically, it's capturing a series of photos at an interval. For instance, capturing every one photo every second. Now, what is amazing about the GoPro Time Lapse is that by default, the mode that we have, it's called Time Lapse Video. And what that means is that you don't have to go through the hassle of stitching all the pictures together. The camera is already doing it for you. So in the GoPro Time Lapse mode, by default, it is in video mode. And when you're shooting it, you are actually capturing a series of photos at an interval. So why do we use time lapse? Right, that is one question that we got earlier, or I got before the show. Someone asked, Ron, why should we actually use time lapse? When do we use it? Well, I would say the reason why you go about using time lapse is because you want to condense a long experience into a short shareable format. For instance, today if I want to take a time lapse of a sunrise or a sunset, sometimes that video might go up to 1 hour, and that might be quite hard for me to share. So instead of sharing or capturing a 1 hour video, I would then go about shooting a time lapse where I can then condense this 1 hour of a sunset into a short shareable format. Okay, so this is what the time lapse would look like. All right. Okay, let me change my mode. All right. Perfect. So if you have your GoPro with you right now, I encourage you to take it up because I will walk you through how do we go about setting up the time-lapse mode and what are the preferred settings. All right, so if you want to swipe right on your GoPro camera, go ahead. And by default, let's go into time-lapse video. So what I want to do here is to share with you some of my go-to settings. If you look on screen right now, I like to shoot my time-lapse. Yo, what's up? What's up, you guys? I am sorry for the glitch. Like I said, there is currently a blackout right now because it's raining so heavily. And yeah, I am back online. Let me know if you guys can see me. Okay, so where were we? All right, the moderators say I'm back. Well, I guess there's always something very exciting about live streams, and this is one of such moments where I am doing a stream in the blackout. So thank you. I apologize for that. I thank goodness I have a light here. All right, so like I said, if you have your GoPro camera, pull it out. Let's walk through how to set up that GoPro time lapse. All right, so typically this is my GoPro time lapse setting. And as you can see, one of my preferred ways to shoot time lapse is that I like to set my time lapse in the highest resolution possible. That be it 4K, 4:3 aspect ratio. And the main reason why I shoot in 4:3 aspect ratio, because I get that question quite a lot, is that I am able to add keyframes in my video in post. Whether I want to pan in left or right, I do a crop in or I do a zoom in on a particular point. So I think this is something quite exciting. Another thing that you will realize as well in terms of my on-screen shortcut on the bottom right-hand corner, I actually like to set my shortcut to interval. That way I am able to select my interval on the go. And on the top right-hand corner, that is when I like to toggle it to what I call white balance. So the reason why I like to set white balance on the top is so that, depending on the scenario that I'm in, whether it's a bright day, it's a sunny day, it's a cloudy day, I am able to toggle my white balance to the optimum setting. All right. Another question that I get sometimes as well is that, hey, Ron, I know that the GoPro time lapse is by video by default. Is there a way that I can shoot time lapse photo? Well, the good news is, yes, you can. So go ahead to open that time-lapse option. And under the format, what you can do is to tap on that, and then you can select time-lapse photo. In fact, one of my favorite modes that I shoot quite often is actually the time lapse photo mode, and I realized this is one of those modes that gets me the shot 99.9% of the time. So let's say I'm going out on an activity, it might not be even a sunrise or sunset. What I can do here is that I am able to capture even action scenes. So on screen is what it's the recommendation for your shots. So if you are shooting fast action shots, my recommendation is you can set your time lapse photo from 0.5 to 1 second. Anything longer than that, for example, we talked about sunsets, you can set it to 2 to 30 seconds. My preference for sunset shots, I like to set it to 5 seconds. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, I think that's quite the sweet spot to actually set your time lapse. My pro tip here is that because you are going to commit to the shot, because you are going to shoot your GoPro for an extended period of time, it is so important that I cannot emphasize enough to actually check and clean your lens before you actually hit the record button. All right, so that is something that I highly recommend. All right, next, as you can see, this is some shots that I shot with time lapse photo as well, and it's quite exciting. These moments like this, you can capture the natural essence of such moment. When I was at a park last year in Thailand, with a giraffe. With that, you can as well create cool animations. So I'm going to show you a video right now. All right. Now that brings us to the next topic. What is time warp then? Sometimes you hear it online. People are talking about time warp, time warp, time warp. What is time warp? In short, time warp is basically a super stabilized time lapse video. So think about it as you shooting a time lapse video that is super stabilized and you are on the go. When do you use time warp then? Well, you use time warp if you intend to, for instance, if you're walking down on the street and you intend to compress this experience into a short shareable format, now you have the ability to do so with time warp. In some technical terms, some people call it hyperlapse, but and in GoPro here, we calling it time warp. So I'm going to show you a short video, and maybe that will give you a clearer understanding of what time warp is. All right. I think before I go on to the next topic, I think I got a question. Darren Lim, you asked a question. If you set the time lapse, I believe you're asking about time lapse, right? If you set it into photo mode, if you record it, it will not be a video, right? That's right. And the reason why you set it in photo mode is because you want to maybe choose a series of photo or choose a sequence of photo that you want to select. And I think one of the benefits to that is that, for instance, if you are intending to produce a stop motion video, or you intend to produce a GIF, like I showed you the giraffe video that I showed earlier, that is one way that you can do it. So I think that is one of the benefits of shooting in time-lapse time-lapse photo instead of time-lapse video. But if you do not want the hassle, of doing, of stitching in post, then I would say keep it simple, shoot time-lapse video. All right, back to it. So time warp was the video that you saw earlier. It's one of my favorite modes that I think GoPro has ever created. It makes capturing moments like that so easy. In the past, to give you context, to create a hyperlapse sequence, you would have to go one step at a time to capture every single photo. And if you are shooting it and then after that, and then you have to stitch it in post. What GoPro has done right now is that they've included the hyper smooth technology into time lapse video, and with that, you are actually getting time warp. So, what's new? To share with you some amazing, exciting features about Time Warp 3.0, in case some of you are using the Hero 9, is that there is a new and improved speed ramp tool that is included in Time Warp 3.0. What do I mean by that? Number one, if you tap on the screen, you are able to slow down your time warp into real speed. At the same time, you can capture audio. I think this is one amazing fact, because by doing so, you are actually doing a vlog in time warp mode. That's insane. Another option that they are actually allowing the users as well is that they are allowing the users to toggle to half speed. So if you are shooting a time warp and you want to go into slow motion, you have the ability to do so as well. All right, so the one tip that I really want to call out, because I think some of you do not know that, is that time warp can actually be activated, or speed ramp can actually be activated either by tapping the screen or the mode button. So tapping the mode button as well activates time warp. All right, so let me show you what time warp real speed looks like. Ha! Pretty awesome, huh? With the all-new speed ramp in Time Warp 3.0, you can slow things down to real speed with audio like this, just by a tap of a button. All right, let's get back into the action. All right, how amazing is that? How amazing is that? Like I said, I think with the addition of Time Warp 3.0 and the Hero 9, it really has changed the way even I vlog, because in the past, I used to vlog with just video mode. But now, as I think about the time lapse mode or time warp mode here that we're talking about, I can and I am actually able to vlog in the time lapse mode, which is awesome. I think this is quite awesome. So for some of you who are wondering what settings to use for time warp, when do you want to adjust the speed, you're not so sure about it, on screen right now is some of the tips that I like to give. So if you are not sure, so usually for shorter activities, let's say today's experience is only 2 minutes. For shorter activities, it's a short walk down the road. We recommend you to use a lower speed, 5x to 10x. Next, if you are doing a longer activity or an activity that involves very heavy motion, maybe you're doing an ATV or go-karting, it's a longer activity, there's a lot of motion involved, I would then recommend you to use 15 to 30x. So that's the speed that you can set in time warp. And if this is all too complicated, my recommendation is to just set it to auto mode, because in the auto mode in time warp, the GoPro adjusts the speed for you based on lighting and several other conditions, because the GoPro is now intelligent enough to analyze your environment. One tip that I really want to call out here, because I see so many of you asking questions about time warp, how do you shoot better time warp? This is my tip, is that I will highly recommend you to turn on your grid on your GoPro. So swipe down on your GoPro camera and you see a grid, turn it on. And what you want to do then is to, when you are shooting your time warp, I want to challenge you to keep your subject in the center of the frame. All right. So, and you are shooting time warp, you should keep your subject matter in the center of the frame. And another tip to go along with that is that keep your motions simple. I don't recommend you to go all over the place. If you are shooting a time warp, go forwards, backwards, left, and right. Simple execution will usually result in awesome videography. Next, let's see. If you are wondering what my go-to settings are, here is some of my go-to settings. By default, I don't know why you won't have your speed icon on the top, but my preference is that I love to actually pull up my speed my speed icon as a shortcut. So that way I am able to toggle on the move. And like I said, my favorite resolution and frame rate to shoot in here, it's actually 4K 4:3 for my time warp. All right, moving on. Now that you guys know a little bit about time lapse, time warp, maybe it's time for me to ask you a question, since this is a live show. Guys, capturing sunrises and sunsets, because we actually get that question quite a lot. What mode do you think I should be shooting to capture this? What mode do you guys think? Okay, in the meantime, I can read some questions. All right, well, you guys take your time. All right. Okay, Black Vien, for time-lapse video, is portrait or landscape nicer? Well, Vien, I would say shooting in portrait or landscape, all right, capturing in portrait or landscape really depends on the platform that you intend to share your video. If you are intending to share your video on Instagram, for example, hey, shoot it in portrait, because that way you are able to optimize your share of screen for Instagram. On the contrary, if you are shooting for YouTube like me, then I would go ahead to shoot on a landscape because I want to have a landscape video for YouTube. All right, let's see. Dan, what's up, Dan? Capture your sunrise and sunset in night lapse. Francis says time lapse video, night lapse, time lapse, time lapse, time lapse, time lapse. All right, and the answer, you guys, actually, there is no right or wrong answer. You can use both the sunrise, the night lapse or time lapse mode. But my preference, I particularly love to capture my sunrises in the time lapse mode, and I will give you an explanation as to why. Okay, but before I go about doing that, I want to bring this up on screen again because I want to show you some tips that you can do it. The reason why I like to shoot it in the time lapse mode is that I think, especially during the sunset, it gives you a very natural fade out. So maybe you are shooting a sunset scene. It's bright sunny condition, and then it goes to the golden hour, and then you want to have a fade to black at the end. I feel that in the time lapse video mode, it gives you a very natural fade out mode. Whereas if you are shooting a night lapse video, sometimes it might result in your night shots being exposed because of the auto shutter speed that night lapse video has. One tip that I want to give you when shooting sunrises or sunset is that to utilize the exposure control to optimize your shot. What do I mean? I'm just going to show you another slide here. If you do not know, your GoPro has this function to select exposure control. So by tapping the screen and holding on to a particular point, you are able to toggle your exposure. So what should you do here? My recommendation is that if you are shooting a sunset in particular, use your exposure control. You can either set it to auto exposure control and select the sun. You want your camera to be selected to the sun so that as the sun sets, you want to have the gradual change in exposure. So I'm going to show you a video right now, and hopefully that video will give you a better understanding what do I mean by that sequence of shooting the bright hour to the golden hour to the dark hour. Okay, that was a little bit fast. I'm going to play it again. And yeah, that's right. And I'm just reading your comments. Some of you asked, how long should you set your intervals to be? Well, for time lapses such as sunsets, I set it to 5 seconds. I think 5 seconds is great. But it really depends on the sky. You know, if you see like it's amazing, beautiful pink skies tonight. If you want to capture more of it, feel free to reduce your interval. You can go down to 2 seconds. But if you see there is not much action going on in the sky, not much clouds, but you still want to capture that bright hour to golden hour to the dark hour, I would say set it to 10 seconds. That would then give you a very natural gradient as you are fading out to black. All right. Atiraf, you are right. If you are shooting sunrises, night lapse mode would be amazing for sunrise. And now, what a great what a great way to segue into the next topic, the introduction to night lapse. Well, you guys, this topic, before I actually start to talk about night lapse, I want to talk about shutter speed, because when we talk about night lapse, it's the main difference between night lapse and time lapse is that, okay, I'll bring up the definition again, is that right now, instead of just capturing a sequence of frames at a set interval, you are as well able to adjust the exposure. And what do I mean by that? In the night lapse mode or night photo mode, you will have the ability to set your shutter speed. And this is what makes this is what's the difference between time lapse and the night lapse mode. So in this mode, what's beautiful about it is that in low light conditions, low light shots, for example, this shot over here I shot in Japan, you can then utilize the night lapse function. Now I'm going to show you a video, and then I'm going to walk you through some tips on how we can go about to get that shot. All right, let's go. What's up? Like I said, you guys, that entire scene was shot mainly using the night lapse mode. And one question that I think I saw earlier was somebody asked, how do you do all this panning up and down, left and right? Some people call it the Ken Burns motion effect. You know, you can just YouTube it. In layman's term, it's basically by inputting keyframes into your video. For example, you have an entry point where it's the center of the video, maybe it's the top right-hand corner of the video, and then the out point at the bottom right hand corner of the video. So maybe say it's a 4 seconds video. What happens is that it plays from the top right hand corner to the bottom left hand corner. So that is what I do, and that is one of the reasons why I love to shoot in 4:3 aspect ratio, because it gives me that full frame to play with. Okay, back to night lapse. One of the most exciting things about this, I feel, is that with the GoPro camera, you can actually shoot up to 30 seconds exposure, and that is epic. If you are trying to capture the stars, the Milky Way, the Northern Lights, your GoPro can do that for you. On screen is actually some tips that we like to give our users. So if you're not sure what exposure for what settings, here is some tips. If you're intending to shoot the street lights, traffic, light painting, fireworks, in fact, I would recommend anything from 2-second exposure to 10 seconds. But that really determines on depends on how dark the environment is. The darker the environment, I would recommend you to shoot go for a higher shutter speed. If you want to shoot the stars at night, what I recommend, 30-second exposure. Like Atiraf mentioned earlier, you can actually use the auto shutter speed where your GoPro selects the shutter speed for you based on lighting condition. So one of the best example that I think Atiraf already mentioned in the chat is sunrises, because during sunrise, it's from a completely dark environment, and then you want to shoot the sun coming out from the horizon. And in such an environment, if you are shooting in time-lapse mode, sometimes, you know, you might not be exposing your camera right. And that is why, especially during sunrises, I like to set it to night-lapse mode in the auto mode. That way, I am able to shoot the gradual gradient from dusk all the way to the sunrise. So that is something nice about it. All right, moving on to some tips. I'm going to put this on screen so you guys can see. If you are intending to shoot light trails, you know, like what you see on screen, here is my tip and my settings. I typically like to set my shutter speed to 5 seconds, especially for street lights. I think they work great. For white balance, I set to native. But hey, stay tuned for that. I actually have a video to explain to you why I use the native white balance. As for ISO, I set it to 100. And the reason for that is because ISO is your camera's sensitivity to light. And if you intend to capture a really long light trail, like what you have seen on screen, then I want to make sure that my camera is less sensitive to light, so that when the shutter opens up and when the light passes the camera, it leaves a very clean and nice imprint in the camera. So that is basically how shutter speed works. Last but not least, my sharpness, I set it to low. And as for color, I go with GoPro color. So some of you might be wondering, what is this ND filter that you're talking about, Ron? So basically, to capture some amazing light trails, this is a brand that I use. It's Polar Pro. It's an ND filter. And basically what it does, it's like sunglasses for your GoPro. So basically with that, you are able to capture or trick the camera into extending its shutter speed, you know? Next, if you are capturing the stars, contrary to that, two things that I would change here. Number one, I would change or bump up my shutter speed to 30 seconds. And the reason for that is that by doing so, I am able to allow more light to enter the camera. Another thing that I would change as well is that I would set my maximum ISO right now to 1600. And why do I set it to 1600? Like I said, I want to make my camera more sensitive to light, especially if I'm capturing the stars at night, because it's completely dark. So by setting at 1600, I am telling the camera, hey, please pick up all of those details of lights that you see in the night sky. One tip that I really want to call out here, because some of you have been sending me some amazing night lapse, and sometimes I feel it's such a pity that it's kind of it could be better. And one of the main reasons how you can improve your night lapse is, it's very simple. It's a very, very simple tip. It's basically the way that you orientate and position your camera. I think it comes down. It's not only does it come down to basic composition. I think at the same time, it is basically avoiding any light source. So for your camera lens, make sure your GoPro camera lens is not pointed directly at any camera source. Make sure it's pointed away from a camera source. So I think that is one very important tip. If you are intending to shoot the night sky, that is one thing that you should look out for. One cool way as well, instead of just shooting it this way, maybe you can go up to the rooftop and just shoot flat, shoot way above the rooftop. And afterwards, I can talk to you about simple compositional technique and in terms of how we can improve that. All right.
So on screen.
Okay, so next I am going to show you a video, and this is the main reason why I always am a big advocate of shooting in native white balance.
So on screen right now, you can see a side-by-side comparison. On the left, it's a time-lapse raw straight from the camera in native, and on the right, it's a color-graded time-lapse. So there is no right or wrong, it's all up to you. And as for the rest of the other setting, it is pretty much straightforward, so just follow what I have on screen and you are halfway there.
All right. Like I said, you guys, that is my tip for shooting night lapses and time lapse. If you did not have a chance to screen grab it.
So on screen right now,
here is another example. Make sure if you want to take a screenshot, you're more than welcome to take a screenshot. Oh, the other one.
So on screen, so just follow what I have.
Okay, so if you want to take a screenshot, here is another way that you can take a screenshot in terms of the modes that you want to set. One thing that I do want to call out, I know I didn't mention it in the earlier slides, that for bitrate, next to white balance, you see this thing called bitrate. Because these days I've been producing my videos on YouTube. So when I want to produce a higher quality video, I actually select my bitrate to high, and I think that's great in terms of capturing all the essence of the video. Okay, so tips. Like I said earlier, just to give you some tips before we actually go into the Q&A session. At this point of time, I hope that you guys are enjoying the session. If you have any questions, or if there is something that I have not covered, please continue to use the chat box. I see people are asking great questions. Shafiq, Nixon, Hendricks, Jawai, what's up? Thank you for all your questions. Our moderators are actually picking them up and sending it over to me. So I will be answering it all shortly. So before I do that, let's talk about some tips to level up that time-lapse game. Here are my 3 tips. If you are intending to shoot better time-lapse or learn how to improve your time-lapse, here are 3 things that you should take note of. Number 1, I think basic photography applies. So the rule of thirds is something that I always talk about, especially when I'm doing time-lapse, stationary time-lapse, or whether that be even a time warp. I think it's so important, and to help you in that, to facilitate you in composing your image, right? I recommend you to turn on the grid lines. It's something as simple as that that will allow you to take your time-lapse game to the next level. And for those of you who are new, you have no idea what is the rule of thirds, what is Ron talking about? To put it very simply, the rule of thirds suggests, it's a basic compositional technique that suggests if you place your subject where the line intersects. So you see a grid on screen, right? It's a grid. And you place your subject at where the line intersects, it creates a more compelling or interesting story. So that is something that the rule suggests, and I think it's something that you guys can give it a shot. Next, number 2, I think perspective is all very important, because if you are shooting a time lapse, it's stationary, or time warp, whether it's moving. I think perspective is always so important. It's something that you should be keeping at the back of your head to think about. So what I like to do is to break it down into two parts. I want you to think of your time lapse as this. What is in your foreground of your time lapse? Number two, what is in the background of your time lapse? And what do I mean by that? In this photo here, you can see how I framed up my shot. Obviously, I wanted to not just shoot the building itself, but I also wanted to capture the building together with the sky. So by doing so, I am framing up my shot with the foreground being the building and the background being the sky. That way, I think you are able to create a more interesting story. So it's not just a blanket scene of the sky as the backdrop, so you see clouds just rolling in. You also want to tell your audience what is this time lapse that you're shooting. That is why by including a foreground into your shot, you are going to create a more compelling time lapse. Next, last but not least, I think the power tools apply if you're using the Hero 9 or if you have GoPro Lapse firmware on your GoPro. I think it's something that you should check out. The scheduled capture function and duration capture function, it's something that I really love. I think I read earlier, one of you mentioned scheduled capture is something that you can set your GoPro as an alarm. And what happens is that, say that I want to capture sunrise tomorrow at 5 a.m., but I am too tired to wake up at 5 a.m. All I got to do is to set up my GoPro the day before and then turn on scheduled capture. What happens is that the next day at 5 a.m., the GoPro turns on and then it starts capturing. That's great because I can still be in bed. The next question some of you might be thinking about is then, hey Ron, but if the GoPro is out in the balcony shooting a time lapse or a night lapse, how do I stop it? Would it just drain my entire battery out, or does it mean that I have to fill up the entire card? Well, that is where duration capture comes in. And the beautiful thing about duration capture, you have the opportunity to set the duration that you want to capture. Say that you only want to shoot a 1 hour time lapse. Go ahead, set it to 1 hour. So from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., you are capturing a 1 hour time lapse. So this, all in all, this is my 3 tips when you are shooting time lapses, night time warps. This, I think, would bring you to the next level. All right. So someone asked as well, what are the kind of mounts that I use? Well, I'm just going to pull out something from here. Here is one of my preferred mounts that has been with me for the longest time, and that is the GoPro Jawflex clamp. I don't know how to tell you this. Some of you who know me, I am obsessed with this mount because I can either use it as a selfie stick, I can also use it to clamp onto any surface to get me that interesting perspective for my time lapse. Another one that's really interesting is this thing called the Max Grip. And basically what the Max Grip does is that it's not only is it a nice tripod, it also has a really nice selfie stick integrated as well. Last but not least, the magnetic swivel clip. If you want something pocketable, I think the magnetic swivel clip is another good mount to have in your arsenal. All right. And like I said, you guys, today's workshop, I want to make it as engaging as it is. And I only know that I have 60 minutes with you, and we're going to do a live Q&A very soon. So if you want to learn more, on screen right now, I actually spoke a lot about time warp on my YouTube channel. So, hey, feel free to head over to say hello. All right. Now, here is going to be the exciting portion. And by the way, if you guys are not aware, of this ongoing social contest, there is this thing called GoPro Awards. And what GoPro Awards basically is that GoPro is rewarding you for your best content. And this is happening on a daily basis. And the best part, we do not limit you on the content that you can submit. And at the same time, some people have asked me, Ron, what are some tips that you can give me to submit to GoPro Awards? Well, I would say here's 4 simple things to remember. Number 1, image quality is very important. So like I said, please always check your lens before you hit the record button. Sometimes you might have an amazing shot, amazing composition. All you need is one smudge or one water droplet to destroy it. So please check your lens before you hit the record button. Image quality. Number 2, unique perspective. I cannot emphasize enough. I think the unique perspective is what sets you apart. It's what sets your shot apart from the rest of the other people's shot. So that is something important to think as well. Number three, very important, authentic moments. I think if you follow the GoPro channels very closely, you see that GoPro is all about celebrating life moments, whether that be it your son or daughter walking for the first time, whether it's pets, whether it's a celebratory moment. It's all about those authentic moments. So instead of shooting a stage moment, try to think, how do you want to capture all these authentic moments? Last but not least, my tip for GoPro Awards is to shoot the type of shot that would invoke a certain kind of emotion, whether that being a curiosity emotion, or whether what kind of emotion do you want to express or tell from your shot. So I think those kind of shots will set you apart. If you think of all these four pillars that I spoke about, that is what it's all about, and hopefully you might be inspired to shoot something today. All right, with that, as promised, here on screen right now, it's the pocket guide, the GoPro pocket guide. So I think, Connie, if you don't mind, you can as well share the link to the pocket guide. And yeah, people can download it. The awesome news is that it's not only for Hero 9, it's as well for your Hero 8 Black pocket guides there. We also have the GoPro Max pocket guide. And Tiraf, yes, I see that you are asking a lot of questions about GoPro Max. I think it's great for you to download this pocket guide. You can check it out. All right, let's go. So with that, flash deal again. Make sure that if you want to purchase a camera or some accessories, hey, here's some accessories. If not, let's go into the Q&A. All right, this is actually my favorite part, you guys, because now I actually get to interact with you live. not to say that it wasn't live. I think today's live stream is really exciting, and for all of you who are tuning in, I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate your patience, because as you can see, the blackout is still happening. I cannot believe that I have been doing the stream for the last hour and the power is still not back on. So thankfully, I have this portable light. All right, so first question that we have, I think it's from Shafiq, Ikram Shafiq. Ikram Shafiq asked, number one, what does interval mean? Okay, well, I think, Shafiq, that's a great question. Maybe I spoke too fast and assume everybody who knows what is interval. Interval basically means to set, it's like a pause in between the shots. So think of interval as a pause. So that is what interval means. So if I am setting an interval of 1 second, what it means is that every 1 second, my GoPro takes one photo. So that is basically what interval means. If I am setting my interval to 5 seconds, that means every 5 seconds, I am taking one photo as well. So that is the difference, and that's what interval means. Okay, Jia Wai, what's up, buddy? What is the best setting for overnight time lapses? Okay, overnight time lapse. Jia Wai, I think this is a great topic to actually talk about. If you are intending to set an overnight time lapse, one of the modes that I would love to shoot in, maybe I would go for the night lapse video mode. And instead, I would select the auto shutter speed. And the reason for that is because at night, it is actually really interesting to look at the clouds pass by behind the buildings. And this is something that I've tested on myself, and it's something that I really love to see as well. In terms of the settings that you should set, I would recommend maybe you can set to 30 seconds to 1 minute for your interval, because if you are intending to capture maybe a 6 hours, 8 hours time lapse, maybe you might want to set a longer interval so that your camera can survive. My other recommendation, if you have the USB pass-through door, what you can do as well is to connect a power source to your GoPro camera. Just make sure that maybe you keep your GoPro, check the weather forecast prior to that. All right, so interval setting, night lapse video, 30 seconds to 1 minute. That's what you can try out. Jia Wai. All right, Nixon Hendricks, what is the difference between time lapse and speeding up your video in post edit? Wow, Nixon, actually, this is actually a great question. It's something that I love. So the question you asked, it's great because I gave the example of walking down the street, or maybe shooting a sunset, right? So say that I'm going to shoot a sunset. It is going to go on for 1 hour. Well, you are right. You are able to speed up your video in post, and then you're going to have a very long kind of a compressed video format. But if you do not want to go through the hassle, what GoPro has done here that's beautiful is that we have created a time lapse mode, and the difference here is that now you are actually taking intervals of photos. So what the difference might look is that in terms of the visual, one might be a very fluid motion because a video is fluid. There's audio as well, and it's fluid, and all your frames are in the shot. Whereas in time lapse mode, you are actually capturing in intervals. So I would say there is no right or wrong. It really boils down to personal preference and how much time you want to spend editing and how much battery and SD card space that you have. If you do not have much SD card space and battery, my recommendation is to use the time lapse mode because it does not take up as much power as video. Video takes up a lot of power. So if you're going to shoot a 1 hour video, that's going to drain out all your battery. All right. Okay, we have another question as well. Keons Chan, what's up, buddy? And congratulations on your recent win. Keons, what is the thought process behind shooting a time lapse? What exactly will trigger you to shoot a time lapse over a normal video? Well, Keons, I think this is a great question. And I think it's also somewhat linked to the question that I answered earlier from Nixon. So, Keons, yo, what's up, John? What's up, Johnny boy? And what's up, Furbin? What's up, Royston? Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked. So, what is my thought process on when to shoot time lapse? So, Kions, to put it simply to you, if I'm gonna explain some scenarios. If I am intending to shoot a stationary shot over an extended period of time, okay, my thought process is that then I do not have a need to shoot video. If I don't intend to record any audio as well, then there is no need for me to shoot video at all because it's a stationary shot. I want to shoot a scene over an extended period of time because I want to capture the changes in the scene. Maybe it's clouds passing, maybe it's people walking around the streets. So that is when I would then opt for the time lapse mode. Number two, you might ask as well, because I remember, I think I saw your question earlier. What is the difference between time lapse and time warp, and when do I use which mode? I think the reason when to use time warp mode is that now the same scene is that today, if I intend to shoot a scene walking down the street, if I intend to shoot a scene maybe walking by the beach, it's an extended period of time as well, but I do not want to share this entire experience as a video. Then what I would do here is to then shoot the time warp mode. Something exciting as well, maybe just to give you my thought process, I like to shoot time warps, especially for transitions. And when I say transitions, what do I mean? Is that if you see some of my videos that I do, I think time warp or hyperlapses create such an amazing transitions for you. So today, if you are shooting an edit, I would say mix up your video shots with time warp shots as well, because that gives you some exciting elements. So Kions, thank you for your question, buddy. I hope I help explain when to use which mode a little bit better. Next, Furbin John, what's up, buddy? Thank you for joining all the way from India. I hope that all of you from India are doing safe and staying safe, and your family are staying safe as well. So Furbin, your question is, can we submit edited photos to GoPro Awards? Well, Furbin, the answer is yes, and the answer is yes as well. So because GoPro Awards allows you to upload unlimited amount of times, you are able to set you are allowed to submit edited photo. But my recommendation is to also submit your unedited raw photo, because if you follow the GoPro channels closely, the GoPro social team has their own style of photo and video. So when they are selecting winners on GoPro Awards, usually, like I said, it boils down to the basic photography techniques or videography techniques. And that comes to your image quality, the perspective that you shot it in, what kind of emotions are you trying to portray in your shot. All right, Jeremy, go. I am new to GoPro and I'm still unable to decide which GoPro to purchase. Okay, should I purchase Hero 9 or should I purchase a lower end GoPro to try as a newbie? Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for your question. I think that's a great question. I actually answered that in our previous live stream session. In the current lineup right now, I think it's a great lineup, and I think using GoPro for the past 6 years, there is so many developments, and I think today there is really such an exciting lineup that we have. Top of the line right now, we have the Hero 9, of course. If you intend to capture 360, there is also the GoPro Max. So the question here that you should ask yourself instead, what should you decide even as a newbie? The good news for you is that no matter what camera you choose, whether you choose the Hero 8, Hero 9 or GoPro Max, all the camera are super intuitive and it's super easy to use with the touchscreen at the back. Another exciting thing for you to think about as well is that number one question, your budget. What budget do you have? If you have the budget to spend, my recommendation, go for the Hero 9, because one of the amazing things that GoPro has done for the Hero 9, we have built it so that it's forwardly integrated. There is so many features on the Hero 9 that we have built into the camera that it's so advanced. Like for example, shooting in 5K resolution. That is something that some of the computers in the world can't even play that. So I think if you are intending to purchase something on a longer term, that is something that you can consider. But then if you have all right. Nice, the lights are back just as the stream is about to end. Like I said, if you have a budget constraint, then my recommendation, go for the Hero 8 Black. The Hero 8 Black is such a great camera to use as well, and you can check it out. Then again, if you want to capture 360 content, then it's a very straightforward answer. The GoPro Max will be your camera of choice. All right, thank God for the camera being back. All right. Finally. All right. Okay. Next question we have. I just realized, we actually have some questions that I put beforehand, and I actually want to answer them. So before the show, I actually got some question. The first question, I think we got that. The first question here was actually from Hafiz. Hafiz's question is, when shooting time lapse, how do I ensure that my footage is not overexposed? Hafiz asked. And to answer that question, Hafiz, if you are on the call, I don't know if you missed that particular segment because we had a blackout earlier. What you want to do is to make sure. All right. What we want to do is to make sure that we have exposure control toggled. All right. So with exposure control, you can ensure that your GoPro camera, right, your shot will not be overexposed because you are able to toggle and set your exposure at a particular point. So if you are intending, like I said, if you are intending to shoot indoor to outdoor, even for your time warps, exposure control is definitely a thing that I would love to call out, because a properly and optimally exposed image will often result in a more professional looking video. So great question, Hafiz. This quick tip over here will prepare you to ensure that your shots are not overly exposed. All right, sorry for the technical glitches, you guys. I just got the power back on. There is so many pop up on my screen right now, and yeah, I'm just happy that we got our stream back on. All right, okay, I think we have another question. I picked up 2 questions because I think those are great questions that people were asking. Victor, you asked a question as well. How do I record a long time lapse without the battery going flat? I think this question as well is related to Jia Wai, because Jia Wai, I think you asked a question earlier, about shooting time warp or time lapse overnight. So how do you want to do that? So basically, to do that, my recommendation is that you can either power your GoPro into a power source, or alternatively, if you want to do that, is that what you want to do is to use duration capture. And like I said earlier, if you already know the specific duration that you want to capture, what I recommend you is to then set duration capture from anywhere from 15 seconds all the way to 3 hours. Let's say you only want to shoot a 1 hour time lapse. Go ahead, set a 1 hour time lapse, and duration capture will do the job for you. All right, let's see, what other questions do we have? Okay. Sao Nai Chin. Okay, I'm gonna test out my time warp on my bike ride this weekend. Awesome, dude. Yeah, test it out this weekend. Feel free to tag me in your time warp to let me know how that goes. I'm very excited to always see the kind of videos and content that you guys create. Let's see, what else? Shafiq, can I suggest the best settings to set for time lapse and time warp? Well, Shafiq, if you have downloaded the Pocket Guide, or if you have not downloaded the Pocket Guide, I highly recommend you to download it, because we have all those questions in We have all of those things in the pocket guide. All right, let me see what other questions do we have. I think we are coming towards the end of the stream. Our moderators are telling me maybe let's answer 2 to 3 more questions. Okay, Royston, you have a question here. Royston, hey Ron, what's better when it comes to time lapse? More frames and less intervals, or less frames and longer interval? Well, I think Royston, that's a great question. I think for some of you who are wondering what the question is, I'm just gonna try to help explain Royston's question in the simplest in a simpler term. So Royston is asking Ron, what is better for time lapse? Should I shoot more frames, meaning I shorten the interval, or should I shoot less frame with a longer interval? Meaning, should I should set my time lapse to 1 second, or should I set my time lapse to 30 seconds, for instance, on my interval? Well, Royston, to answer your question, I think it really depends on what do you want to achieve from your time lapse. Like I said earlier, if you are shooting a fast action scene, a fast shot, let's say it's an activity, like I am out doing a water sport like wakeboarding, I would then set my time lapse, for example, time lapse photo, to a shorter interval from 0.5 seconds to 1 second. Now, if I am shooting a sunrise scene, a sunset scene, or just clouds passing by, or people walking on the streets, then maybe I would then set my shot to 5 to 10 seconds. So it really doesn't matter what you prefer. Okay. All right, let's see. What other questions do we have? Okay, I just realized my lights is flickering at the back. Let me just set it. Okay, cool. Okay, what else do we have? What other questions do we have? Sound Yu Chin, very useful tips, especially for a noob like me. Love the tips screen captured all of them. Thank you so much, buddy. Feel free to share it with your friends. Like I said, this community here is all about sharing, and I am here to spread my good vibes. So I'm happy to hear that you are taking away a lot of good stuff with it. Okay, Dan, thank you so much. Yes, exposure function is such an awesome pro tip. It's so simple, but that makes your shot so much more professional looking. Okay, maybe we can do one more question because it's already 60 minutes. Let's see, what other question do we have? Okay, let's see. Jimmy, you actually asked a question earlier. I wanted to answer it, but I almost overlooked it. Now I scroll back up and I want to answer it. You said I actually prefer the Hero 4 Black, the Hero 4, because you can shoot the photo and video mode. Well, Jimmy, I want to share with you something amazing. With the Hero 9 Black, because you are shooting at such high resolutions and frame rates, I want to share with you this cheat sheet that I have. Oh, where is my cheat sheet? Let me see if I can bring it up on screen for you. Okay, you can actually do frame grabs from your photos and video. Let me just show you. This is the GoPro. By the way, if you are wondering what the GoPro Pocket Guide looks like, this is what it looks like. Okay, and let me pull up that frame grab. Perfect, Jimmy. You no longer have to shoot photo and video separately because, hey, right now, if you are shooting at a higher resolution, you can actually grab up to 14.7 megapixel frame grab, and that is insane. Feel free to do another screenshot here. And like I said, you guys, the reason why I like to shoot 4K in 4:3 aspect ratio, look at that. That allows me to actually do a 12 megapixel frame grab. How insane is that? How insane is that, you guys? So I think, Jimmy, you brought up a great question actually. You cannot decide whether to use a photo or video mode. You like the Hero 4 photo or video mode. Guess what? We've made that thought process so simple because right now, with this simple mode, you are able to actually do a frame grab from a high resolution. So the next time if you are shooting anything, my recommendation is that, hey, if you can shoot at a higher resolution, you can afford to, go for it. All right, let's see. What other questions do we have? Okay, I think we have a lot of questions. Yeah, I think we are such an amazing chapter today. Totally agree. Yes, that's right. Jimmy, that's right. Thank you for staying to the end, Jimmy. Nice to see you here. All right. I think it's about time we end the workshop. But before we end the workshop, we have some amazing giveaways right now. So let me just pull up that giveaway slide. Some of you might be wondering, what are you guys giving away? So it's time for the giveaway. But before we do announce the winners, here is what the winners will be receiving. It's what we call the GoPro swag bag. It's packed with a lot of love and a lot of good vibes. So some stickers. I think there is a frisbee. Yeah, that's what the yellow and pink color thing look like. It's a GoPro frisbee. It's great. We have some GoPro pop sockets. Like this. I love pop sockets. I hope you do as well. We also have some lanyards as well. So let's start with the winners. So winner number one, drum roll. Is there any drum roll? All right, I'm entertaining myself. Winner number one, it's Darren Lim. And Darren, thank you so much for your question that you asked earlier. Our moderators has picked your question as one of the winners. So if you are still on the call, please reach out to us, send us a DM so that we know who you are. Alternatively, our moderators will also reach out to you. Thank you for that. Number two, it goes out to my friend over here, Ikram Shafiq. Ikram Shafiq, our moderators have picked you as another question. I believe your question that you asked was, what does interval mean? And I think our moderators also left a comment. I think you asked a great question because there is one tip that I want to give you in my workshop. There is no question is a stupid question. So I think you've asked a great question. It's something that we often overlook. I often throw out a lot of terminology and jargons, and I think you asked some great questions. And throughout the workshop, you have asked some amazing tips. And Cohen, what's up, buddy? Thank you so much for joining the live stream. We are towards the end of the stream, but hey, Cohen, I appreciate you getting up so early to join us. You have missed the most exciting part because there was a blackout earlier, but hey, we are back live. All right, down to the last giveaway. The last giveaway, it's none other. We have Victor Chua. So Victor, you have won yourself another GoPro swag bag. I think. Thank you so much for your participation throughout the workshop. It's really rad. And yeah, guys, I think that sums up today's entire session. Like I said, you guys, I am so excited, so stoked to be here, sharing all my knowledge and tips with you. And like I say, this place, being able to stream and produce our workshops now on Facebook is really the next level. And I am just so excited to be here doing it with you. And as you can see, it really is a one-man show here. That is the producers that I have. And once again, I want to give all of you at home joining us on today's session a huge high five for taking the last 60 minutes to spend with us on this amazing GoPro e-workshop. I hope that I've delivered and answered all your questions that you have about time-lapse, and more than that, to share the good vibes that I have here with you. So on behalf of the GoPro training team and our moderators on the call, I want to wish you all a great night. Stay safe at home, whichever countries that you are at. And I want to say thank you to all of your questions and all of that awesome sharing and participation that you have, because I will see you guys in the next upload. Bye. Alvin, thank you for joining in. A little late, but that's great, you guys. I think the video will be uploaded onto Facebook, so you can check out the post stream. Like I said, I really love you guys. See you. Bye.